everyone? My name is Andrea. If you don't know me, you should subscribe because like why not? You should also hit the notification bell down below to be notified every time I upload a new video. But anyway, today I'm going to be sharing with you guys my top reads of 2020. I did this video last year, and for 2019 I did my top 5 best reads. This time I'm just doing quite a bit more than 5 because there were so many books I read. As of right now, the 21st, I read 76 books, so I could not narrow it down from 76 to just 5, so here we are. We're just gonna take it back to the very beginning of the year when things looked a lot different than they do now for the books that I read at the beginning of the year and totally not knowing what this year was gonna bring. And then we're gonna go on to the ones I've recently read and all of my new favorites, but this year has been crazy, and I'm just glad that reading and all these books have been a continuity and something to give me peace and relax and just let me escape. So I love all these books, and here we go. The first book I have on my favorite books of 2020 is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. This is Kingdom of Ash. I forgot that I had this cover. I read this book at the very beginning of the year. It was my 7th read of the year. And who would have thought that the 7th book I read this year would be on my all-time of this year's favorite list? I love this dust jacket, by the way. It's really cute with all of the artwork. But thinking back to the fact that this was my 7th read of the year and it's still one of my all-time favorite, probably ever, just really hits hard. As with all these books, I gave this one 5 stars, and I love Kingdom of Ash. I think it was a book that wrapped up a series perfectly. It wrapped up the Throne of Glass world so well. It tied up a lot of things, gave me some happiness, made me sob on the floor. This was the first book that I really sobbed to this year, so that's something. Bonus points for that. But I really found something within Aelin, the main character of the series, that I didn't know would carry with me throughout this year. I think a lot of themes from this book, like unrelenting hopefulness and never backing down and just fighting through the tough times, are something that I didn't know that I was gonna have to deal with this year. And I think this year threw a lot of things at me personally and of course the entire world. But here we are, and I love this one so much. It just, I get emotional. It was just a great read. Another favorite of mine was Cinder by Marissa Meyer. I do have to say that all credit for me reading this book goes to my friend Lisa. I would have not picked this up if it wasn't for Lisa talking about it. Honestly, like if I'm being honest, Lisa is the reason I read this. And I'm really glad I did, because as I was thinking of what books I wanted to put on this list, Cinder just felt like I owed something to her. Like it was such a good story. I really, the more I think about it, the more I am actually a Lunar Chronicles stan, because I really liked this whole series. But specifically Cinder, it was my favorite out of all 4 of them, so I had to put her on the list. I really loved it. If you haven't read the Lunar Chronicles, you should definitely check it out. Then came my highlight of my reading career this year, which was Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, the first book in the Last Hours trilogy. I was so lucky that I got to meet Cassandra Clare this year, and it just sounds insane to say that because we haven't been able to meet anyone outside of like your family, really anyone, like unless you live with them or unless they're in your town and you're all sure that you're safe, and just so many things, like you don't get to meet people. And the fact that in March, the very last month of semi-normalcy, I got to meet Cassie Clare just has a lot of emotion. All of these books do, because what else would be for your top favorites? But I met Cassandra Clare, read this book in one night, 5 stars, pretty sure I cried. The ending was amazing, like immaculate. But what else do we expect from Cassie Clare? I also met Ermine when I went to the signing, and the fact that I met a random stranger and we are still friends today, love that for us. It was great. I'm really thankful for that. But Chain of Gold, so good. Like, what's a video without mentioning Shadowhunters? What's a favorites of the year without mentioning Shadowhunters? It's not one of my videos, that's for sure, because I love me some Shadowhunters, and we know that. Right after Chain of Gold, I read Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. And I absolutely loved this book. I did not expect to go on such an emotional roller coaster. I'm sorry I keep saying the word emotional, but really, this book hit me so hard, and I didn't even know why. I didn't even understand. But the things that Bryce, the main character of this book, goes through, oh my, the trauma, the way that the grief and the trauma was handled, so good. I respect Sarah J. Maas so much for that. Literally, I thank her for that. This book just healed something in me, and I said that in my review for this one, and I still stand by that. I still stand by how good Sarah J. Maas can deal with trauma and handle it and write it beautifully and just make it work. And just, I'm such a Sarah J. Maas stan, I'm sorry. But I love this book so much, and I don't care what the haters say because it was so good. So another favorite of mine was Unravel Me by Tahereh Mafi. This is the second book in the Shatter Me series, and listen, I know that Shatter Me has been out since like, what, 2012, 2015? Very long time has this series been, you know, ongoing, and it just finished this year. Caught up, and I read all of them, and I love them so much. And it's so funny because Shatter Me is one of those that I know is notorious for people liking it, loving it, or hating it. And I loved it. I thought it was so good, and it's because I love Tahereh Mafi's writing style. She's one of my favorite authors. Like, I can say that with my whole chest because I love her writing style. It's definitely not for everyone, and I think that if you don't like Shatter Me, it's because partly of her writing style. But if you like it and you just vibe with it, so good. Especially Unravel Me. I know I gave the first book 4 stars, then I gave this one 5, the next one 3. It was all over the place, but overall I had a great time, and overall this was the best one. The tea, the angst, the old and young adult feels that I got was just so great. I just have very like good memories with this, and that's the best feeling. I also have like all the Shatter Me characters bookmarks, and that was like a huge plus because I bought these at a used bookstore, the one I work at, and they literally came with all of the little bookmarks of all the characters, and that was a plus too. My next favorite was A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne Brown. This book, I think, is literally going to be one of my favorite series, my favorite fantasy series ever. It's gonna be one that's way up there with Shadowhunters, with The Cruel Prince, with Six of Crows. I see so much potential in Roseanne Brown, especially this being her debut novel, and the story. There's so much there, there's so much to work on. The world building I thought was done so well, and the characters were fleshed out just enough to where I feel like I know them each individually, and I also feel like there's room for them to grow and room for me to still get to know them as the series continues. And honestly, I cannot wait to see the rest of Malik and Karina's journey. I am so ready for the sequel. I literally cannot wait. But this one, if you haven't read it, I can't even talk about it highly enough. Like, it was such a good fantasy. So if you're like me and you kind of vibe with my taste, please check this one out. It was such a great fantasy and very promising author. I love this one. Another favorite of mine, which if I had to rank them, you know, like from 1 to whatever, this one would probably be like in the top 3. The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I cannot tell you guys how much I love this book. If you've seen me talk about it in my past videos, I'm pretty sure you get it. Like, for a long time I mentioned it in like every video, but this book is so special to me. I literally, like, when somebody would ask me what is your favorite book, this is going to be one that I will say because it's just such a great novel. And it's very different than what I usually read. It's not technically like, you know, a high fantasy or something. It's very different, and I'm surprised that I liked it so much, but I truly love this book. This is definitely one of the most atmospheric books I have ever read, and the quotes in here, the writing is beautiful, and I literally highlighted so much in this book, like throughout the whole thing. I just kept highlighting because I really loved the quotes, and the more I pick up a highlighter to highlight stuff I'm liking, the more I know it's definitely a 5-star. It's definitely one of the ones that is going to be my all-time favorite. And I can see myself going back and reading this book every couple years and still getting those same feelings that I did from the very beginning, from the very first read. So this book, if you read it, if you've read it, it speaks for itself. It's honestly just a great novel. It's just worth everyone's time, okay? So good. We've got 2 more, guys. 2 more books. So let me just go on with it. Let me just get right into it. So Red Rising. If you don't know, this is by Pierce Brown, and it is an adult science fiction novel, and it's a series, it's a trilogy. I cannot believe that there are still books out there that I read this year that are from years ago that I love so much. I thought that, you know, as I was growing up, I read everything that was good, and I'm finally finding out that that is not the case. And Red Rising, literally just, I think this is my number one of the whole year, if I'm being honest. It blew me away completely, and it had everything I wanted. And it's very weird because this book didn't have some aspects that I usually have to have, specifically romance. There's not really hardly any romance, and that's something that's usually a no for me, but it just works. Like, I was so invested in everything else that it didn't even matter, and this book is truly so special to me. If you don't like gore and violence and, you know, all of that fantasy stuff, you're not gonna like this one. But if you do, Red Rising, I have only this to offer you. It's so good. I definitely see the hype, and it deserves it. I'm just saying. Also, would do anything for Severo. Like, I just would. It's just, I'm sorry, but I would. So there's that. Finally, the last book I have to share is A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. I did not expect to fully get through the entire A Number in the Ashes series this year, but I did that, and it was amazing. This book is probably up there with Kingdom of Ash as the best books that wrap up the series. It was literally written so beautifully, and I think that this is as close to a perfect book as one can get. I think Sabaa Tahir is so talented. She has gained a for life stan. I will read anything that she writes, and I'm just so proud of the way that this book came out. I'm so proud of the characters and their arcs and the storyline and everything. Like, it's a masterpiece of a book, and I am so grateful that I got to read this one this year and that it's on this list because it was just brilliant. I also have a newfound love for Helene Akila, and, you know, never thought I'd say those words when I started Number in the Ashes, but here I am, and here she is, and here we are. That is all the books I have to talk about. I feel like I read so many great ones. Like, these were all 5 stars, but there's so many 4 stars that I also loved, some 3 stars that I, you know, still really enjoyed. So, and these weren't even all my 5 stars. Like, I have more, but I just couldn't keep this going because I would have just said every single book that I read. So, that's gonna be it. Stay tuned for my worst reads. That's been a big dilemma for going around BookTube, but look out for that. And that is pretty much all I have to say. Let me know if any of these made your top favorites of the year. I'd love to know. It's very exciting, and I hope you enjoyed this video overall. So you can find all of my social media down below, and that's all I have to say. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!
Oh, Christmas tree. Oh, Christmas tree. Been wondering just what you